Today we are going to be discussing a Vox contributor by the name of Carlos Maza attempting to weaponize Pride Month in order to deplatform his critics. In the same post, Carlos of Vox accuses YouTube of exploiting the LGBT LMNOP community and then also attempts to exploit that same community for the sake of a petty internet grudge. Carlos has also cheered on when people have lost their jobs or have been deplatformed on several occasions. Despite attempting to shape the narrative in his favor, Carlos of Vox has possibly ruined what little good faith there was left at that publication for the sake of getting back at a man who insulted him on the internet. It's a rather bold move to tank your entire career because somebody on the internet called you a name. Let's start at the beginning. A few days ago, Carlos of Vox started his campaign of deplatforming against everybody's favorite bicurious Canadian, Steven Crowder. The fact that Carlos would target a bicurious crossdresser within his own community in Pride Months of all months is irony at its finest. Carlos posted a compilation of Crowder talking about him, which featured numerous clips of Crowder recycling the same insults against our favorite Vox contributor.
Before we get to the video, with our favorite lispy sprite from Vox. It's ridiculous. It's bonkers. You're being given a free pass as a crappy writer because you're gay.
That center line on his little queer graph there. What is well,
now
line?
The graph is queer?
Violence, filth.
Okay, so the little queer could eat his chips all nonchalantly. It's code for rape, Mr. Queer eating chips on the Vox channel. Chip, 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 but you can eat just one. Like dicks. This is what Mr. Gay Vox wants to do. Mr. Lispy Queer from Vox. What were you holding, Gay Latino from Vox?
After posting the video and claiming he actually had thick skin, Carlos began tweeting erratically, tagging YouTube in about a dozen tweets demanding that they take down the channel of somebody he dislikes. Soon came the hordes of verified Twitter users demanding that YouTube take action, which basically means do whatever they say. They have a list of demands, okay? And when you have a list of demands, maybe you're not the good guy, Carlos. Maybe that makes you the bad guy. As soon as YouTube posted their initial decision, Carlos decided it wasn't good enough for him. He didn't get what he wanted, and that's quite frankly unacceptable. Why don't the rules work in his favor every time? This needed to be rectified. So Carlos and his hordes of people pretending to be outraged moved on, and they devised a plan. Mysteriously, all within minutes of one another, several articles came out from Newsweek, The Washington Post, The Verge, Gizmodo, and many more, all published around midnight, which I found odd. Each article called out YouTube for refusing to enforce its policies, which means they didn't do what Carlos wanted, and so his friends over at these publications wrote articles hoping to pressure YouTube into doing what he wants. It was not but a few hours after that even more articles came out, that YouTube changed its tune and began taking down thousands of videos as well as demonetizing several channels for obscure reasons. One channel was demonetized for their overuse of capital letters, and meanwhile, Crowder's channel was only temporarily suspended in monetization until they removed one of their t-shirts from their merch store. Needless to say, Carlos is furious, demanding that more be done, even though hundreds and thousands of people have had their livelihoods taken away from them. There have been educational channels taken down over this, even something that I'm sure Carlos of Vox is very proud of. What a big man, using his grudge against one person to go after poor people making videos on the internet. Stunning and brave, am I right, guys? An interesting development was Carlos's Reddit account, which apparently re-uploaded recordings of him making love with his husband. So if you're interested, you can look for more Carlos Maza than you ever wanted to see. It's out there in his archive. It's there for everybody. The internet never forgets. So where does this leave us? Carlos and his cronies want to create a big enough stink to sink the entire platform. In their hubris, they believe themselves to be safe from the fallout, but things always go back in the other direction, and the same rules used against their critics will be repurposed towards them. It's only a matter of time, and hell, it's already happening, by the way. A user on Twitter called Ford Fisher has been demonetized, and they made sure to let Carlos know this isn't his fault, this is YouTube's fault for not trying to do the very thing Carlos demanded in the first place, enforce their policies. The problem is that their terms of service are so vague, anyone at any time can be found at violating them, which means it can affect both sides of the spectrum. Carlos, I know you're saying this isn't your fault, and I know a lot of your friends are saying this isn't your fault, but it's your fault. If you didn't try to exploit a month celebrating your kind in order to silence somebody you didn't like, your associates would not have been affected by this. You should expect the rules to be applied evenly, even if you're trying to circumvent that by labeling one side of the argument right and the other one wrong. So after the dust has settled for the day, the New York Times put out an article about YouTube removing many more videos in the future. What kind of videos will they be looking to take down? Well, they are planning on taking down videos discussing conspiracy theories, which is a problem because many of the things deemed a crazy theory by corporations in the past turn out to be entirely true. Take, for example, JFK. They will also be looking at videos that are rude and insulting, which are foundations of the digital platform in the first place. Drama channels make up a large portion of the traffic on YouTube, and they are essentially putting a stop to content creators going at each other in videos, all because there was a journalist who had a score to settle with someone. Now we all have to pay for Carlos Maza's vengeance. Now we are paying the toll. There is a small lining of silver that is worth mentioning. As I mentioned before, Carlos had some questionable stuff show up on Reddit. If you take Carlos's Twitter handle and search for that same user on Reddit, you find a user that is posting dicey videos of himself and his husband. I think you know where I'm going with this. Carlos Maza is the kind of guy that uploads his peen to Reddit for the world to see. It's out there if you want to see it, but I wouldn't wish that on anyone, not even Carlos himself. This is the type of person that wants to tell us what we can think and what we can say online. Imagine making this person a moral authority on anything. There will be more innocent people caught in the crossfire than anything else. Vindictive people will take this opportunity to shut down others under the guise of following the rules when they are really concerned with shutting somebody down because they don't like them. Well done, Carlos. You have done more to ruin the internet than any one person in recent memory. Good job.